All right. I'm recording. So this is part 2 of episode 113 with the great Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times, brought to you by Chalet Bowl, chaletbowl.com. And you're saying, what do you mean it's part 2? Well, we recorded this earlier here on Wednesday, and then this guy, this Putz, went back to listen to it and said, "Oh, I had the wrong mic setting on." And so it sounded like I was in a tunnel because it was going off my computer mic. So this is part 2. Part 1 was great, and I hope at some point maybe it makes the podcast, because it was a terrific one. But here's the deal, Ryan. And you've changed outfits because now you're in a workout outfit, but you also now you went out to get pizza. Now we can do a pizza review. How was the slices?
Yeah, I went to Rosa's in Harlem. It was amazing. Pepperoni and cheese. So pepperoni and cheese. So 2 big slices, 1 pepperoni, 1 cheese, and a Diet Coke. It was $11.50. $11.50. Unbelievable.
Okay, this is my point. Okay, I don't understand.
And
Why is it so much cheaper?
And so
Did you have to tip?
So the woman working the register was doing the thing. She canceled the no tip on the card because I was using my work card, and she put no tip. Because I'm sure, like, what happens out here too is you get taxed on your tips and stuff. So they just want the cash tips. So
yeah,
it's I honestly could have eaten another slice, and I thought about going back, and then I'm like, I didn't work out that hard today. So despite wearing the sleeveless shirt.
Yeah, you look
good.
Well,
it's hot and I'm sweating like a pig walking around, so I need to cool down.
Okay, so we've gone. All right, so you have gone here now with a double slice of pizza. We went pepperoni, we went cheese.
Yeah. So
good for you.
Yeah, I mean, like, it just pepperoni, cheese. They had a sausage and pepperoni one that looked really good, but I'm like, you know what, just not gonna do it. I'll have some discipline so I can go have a bagel sandwich when I get. And like, Yankees media dining is probably top 5 in baseball. It used to be number 1. It's not as good anymore, but it's like comparing the batting averages of I don't even know. I don't want to get into that, but it's just so much better than Seattle's.
Yeah, we don't need to throw them under.
Yeah, it's just so much better than Seattle's. It's not even close.
It's just but the pizza, good for you, sir. And then, so now and now we get a review on the pizza, which is great. So what's the name of the place again in Harlem?
Rosa's Pizza. It's got
Rosa's Pizza, 2 slices and a drink. It was $11.
$11.56, I believe.
I don't get it.
Oh.
How is it cheaper in Harlem, in New York City than in Seattle? One slice would be $11 here.
Yeah, I went to like this bagel place yesterday, right before I got lost in Central Park. But I went to this bagel place called Absolute Bagels, and I got because I love New York bagels. I mean, it's just different. The water,
Who doesn't?
And I got egg and bacon and American cheese, the egg sandwich out here, and I got a water, and so it was, I think, $8 total for everything.
I don't get it.
I know.
And we've talked about this tipping thing. You see, guys, in episode 1 of episode 113, we talked a lot about tipping. And I do feel that there's a tipping culture in Seattle and at the Pacific Northwest, Tacoma, whatever, is out of control. And it's why I'm doing a no tipping 2024. I'm done. I'm done tipping. I'm sorry. I've had it.
I mean, like,
tipping on everything. The service isn't good anymore, and they all expect it. New York City, as we talked about before, they have to compete for it because there's so many more restaurants there and competing for your business. So they work their asses off for a tip.
Yeah, I mean, like, I look at it that way too. As a former bartender for 5 years at Red's Bar, I learned how to bartend at the Palace Bar and Gallery Lounge in Havre, Montana, where I was also a DJ at the Gallery Lounge. But are
there pictures of that, please?
No, there's but bartending in Missoula, is it's real work, and there is, Puck knows this. The downtown area of Missoula during a college football weekend is one of the greatest places to be. There are 30 bars in about a 6-block radius,
It's
and it's
phenomenal.
just hopping at all times. And so I remember like just going in there and thinking, oh man, this is slammed. And my boss would just be like, get going. You guys got to push, like get the drinks out. And but it's like the nights where it wasn't busy. So you're going to get tips no matter what. But like it was the nights where it wasn't busy. I'm working a Monday night football game and maybe there's 15 customers in there, if that, or even a Sunday evening. You got 4 guys. You got to be nice to the guys. And I'm not naturally a nice person and I don't really like people, but you have to engage in a lot of that because you want to get tips. So it's work. And we, as we discussed, I think there's an expectation for tips. And this is like now with minimum wage actually paying a little bit better, when back in Montana it was like $6.50 an hour for minimum wage.
These guys make like $20 an hour now.
Yeah. So I still tip because that's the service industry person in me. But I always thought I'd go back to being a daytime bartender when I quit this job, which could be after this season. But I don't know. I always tease Adam Jude about that because like last year I was really considering I was gonna be done after last year, just kind of where I'm at in my life and some stuff I was dealing with at work. And then this year's been a lot better, but I always thought I could be a daytime bartender. My cousin actually just is opening a sports bar in my hometown. He really wanted me to run it, but I didn't want to be the manager. I don't want responsibility. Like when I'm done with this, like as I mocked Jim Moore yesterday on Twitter about how he's doing forced retirement wrong. I mean, he is absolutely doing it wrong. Like he's bitter that he doesn't have to work. I'm counting down the days when I don't have to work.
I think that's part of the go-to guy's though shtick though. I think he's bitter about it, but he also is like, look what his day is consists of, I should say. He wakes up, he probably plays Wordle. He looks at the sports section. He goes and hits a bucket of balls. He's chased everybody out of Bend, Oregon, because people are leaving there because they're tired of people like him moving there. And then he goes and illegally has his dogs go all over parks and they jump into the river. I mean, that's a full day of doing nothing, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But I'm
doesn't
with
that
you. He
sound
needs to embrace that a
amazing?
little bit more.
Doesn't that sound amazing? When I was back in Havre and had a day off, like on a Thursday, I took care of my girlfriend's house. Like I mowed the lawn, did all the trimming, I double cut it. Like I was freaking mowing Augusta's greens, like
Wow.
double cut it, got it all tight. It was like, it looked tremendous. I love that kind of stuff. I would love retirement, give me a job at what would be the best is like, if you retired to like Missoula and you worked on the ground staff at the Missoula Country Club. So you got up at 6, went and mowed greens or fairway tee boxes, and then you were done and you got comp rounds there.
I just want to be a starter. That's all I want to do. I want to be
Kirby
a
Arnold
guys,
starter.
Yeah. What are you guys doing with handicap? What do you guys want to play? I mean, we're always, let's move it up a little bit. We can always, forward those tees a little bit, fellas. It's okay. 6,000 yards is fine. 6,000 yards is your friend today. You guys play here before? That's always the first one, right? You guys play here before? Okay. Well, nice to meet you. My name's Ryan. Let me tell you a little something about the course. That's the job. That's the gig.
I mean, like even if you just worked in the pro shop bar, just pulled beers. Oh yeah, had the golf channel on and sports on at all times. Give me that.
We'll open up our own. Can we live
in
Missoula,
it's that.
Or is that
honestly,
too
can I swear?
now?
But it's the bullshit of having to have health insurance that stopped me from retiring. I could go do baseball lessons, like hitting lessons. Like one of my prodigies, she hit 3 bombs in 4 games, or no, 5 bombs in 4 games over the weekend. Like I could just do hitting lessons for cash, train, and then.
Well, we're going to get you to come out.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Ballard 11U All Stars. We're going to start up here pretty soon.
They don't mind the F word.
Come out. Yeah, they love the F word.
Okay, I mean, your kid knows it, obviously.
Well, he does.
He can't spell it, but he can. He can't spell it, but he can say it. It's like he's using his ring finger to flip somebody off.
He sure can. He sure can. You can deal with him. You want to talk some baseball?
Yeah, I might as well. We can get sidetracked. Before we go, I got a shout out.
113.
Shout out to my Havre Blue Ponies, the girls track team. My girlfriend's daughter, she won the divisional meet. She's going for state.
So she did win.
Yeah, she's pretty fast.
Good Lord.
And
how did the baseball team? Was it the baseball?
Yeah, they split a game and they split their doubleheader in Billings. Second game, Tyson, my girlfriend's son, had 3 hits, 2 doubles, and a single. I had threatened because he was a Sally swinger. Like we'd worked so hard to not let him, because like last year when he was only 15 playing against a bunch of 18-year-olds, he was just so worried about not striking out. And so
God, you're
this year,
playing
like
against 18-year-olds at 15?
yeah. Well, he's like 6'1". He just texted me yesterday. He goes, I almost got 255 on bench. And I'm like, good Lord, get off the roids, kid.
Oh my God.
Um, but
Good for him.
so anyways, we'd worked really hard about like hitting the ball hard and swinging with intent. And I was getting irritated watching some of his games in person and live. So we did some work at this D-Bats facility in Billings. And I just said, look, tomorrow, if you don't get at least 1 double, I'm changing your walk-up music to Taylor Swift. We're never getting back together, because him and his girlfriend just broke up. So I was going to have that as his walk-up music. So he was pretty motivated to have his crappy Laffy
Good.
Taffy song instead.
All right. Yeah, you're a master motivator. This
Yeah.
is what
Fear.
Ballard Little League needs.
Fear and bribery, Puckett. That's how you get kids to do what you want. Fear and bribery.
Fear and bribery. Is that what they've done with Dylan Moore to get him going?
I
Fear
don't
and
know.
bribery? Because he's been on a tear on this road trip, man. It's awesome to watch.
It's really good. I think he's 30 years old. He understands who he is. And I think also, like, the idea of what a utility player is, a guy off the bench, he's not following that path of just being kind of the Willie Ball game or some of those guys. Who was the guy? Andrew, his brother was a catcher. I don't remember. Like kind of the lighter hitting defense first speed guys. One, he's fast. He's really strong. He can hit the ball with power. He has extra base potential. And I think that's big. Just understanding who he is as a hitter has been the big thing. And we talked about it on the episode that won't air, kind of like the Seinfeld Chronicles or whatever, the Beatles tapes that'll somehow.
It'll be out there at some point.
Yeah.
It'll be in the ether.
He is healthy this year. This is the biggest thing. Last year he had a core muscle injury. As anybody knows, if you've had surgery in that region, whether you've had a sports hernia, you've had me like where they botch an appendectomy and you're in a catheter for 6 weeks, you'll get weak down there and it takes a long time to recover. And I think he came back a little too quick. He had some setbacks. He just never really got in the flow of playing last year. Whereas this year he's played a lot. And I think with JP Crawford getting hurt, it allowed him to play even more and kind of build up, get some rhythm, play enough to where he's really contributing. And as you know, I wrote, he's going to stay in the lineup as long as he hits. They'll find a way to put him in there.
So with JP back though and playing shortstop, where does he rotate? Is he left field, third base?
Yeah, I think left field. He could play some second base. If I was Luis Urias, I'd be worried about my playing time, because Dylan Moore can play third base and he's fundamentally more sound than Urias. Makes things happen better. Base runner. Urias's problems, like it's crazy because we sit there. He's like we were talking about this last night at this Russian mob bar we went to. That he's like, you remember the episode of Seinfeld where Costanza did Costanza? Like Luis Urias always ends on a good note. Like he'll box a ball at third that's just so routine. You're like, and then strike out twice. And you're like, this guy's terrible. They're going to get rid of him. And then he turns like 2 pretty double plays, starts him off, and then gets a big hit late. And then you're like, okay, Costanza. It's like Urias. He always ends on a good note, so you forget about the other stuff that he did to begin with.
Yeah. What? Okay, Russian mob bar. Why does it make it how do you know it's a Russian mob bar?
So a couple of years ago, we were on a long road trip, and it would have been a day. Might have been one of the first times I got lost in the park. I don't remember, but they were bad at that point.
How many times have you been lost in the
Twice. Okay. So much lost. I just come out on the wrong side and get discombobulated. But anyways, a couple of years ago, we're sitting there, and I said, I just announced in the press box, and I think I was mad at former boss. I was just like, we're drinking tonight. I don't care what you say. No excuses. Kramer, you're drinking. Shannon, you're drinking. And Martinez happened to be there. And so Kevin Martinez was there.
Kevin, listener, this is Kevin Martinez. Yes. He works with the Mariners. He's been there for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Marketing guru. He's the vice president of like the whole thing now.
He gets people to come to these games when they suck. So
correct. And
yeah.
Yes.
And so he was there, and I think it was Alex Mayer at the time, Corey Brock. I just announced we're all drinking. No, and so we went, and I was looking online, and I found this bar called Whiskey Trader, and it said it was kind of a sports bar dive bar, Midtown Manhattan, kind of felt like that was in between for all of us. So we go there, and I remember sitting there, and I walked up, and there's a hostess. She says, you want me to get you a table?" And I was like, "No, no, we get you a table in back. We get you a good table." And I look, and I was like, she had a very Eastern European accent, look to her.
Yeah.
Then we walk in, and every waitress in there and all the bartenders in there were all like kind of like this Eastern European looking models, very attractive. And then I looked along the wall, and there's these dudes that look like you don't want to mess with them. They're huge, and they got girls hanging on them. I'm like, and so we're sitting there, and pretty soon we're all talking about it, the bar and everything, because it was a really cool bar. And I just remember saying, I think this is like a Russian bar with like some mob dudes in there. And I think Martinez, of all people, who grew up in Jersey, goes, "Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on this." And so we've gone there every year since.
Is there a neck tattoo?
I mean, there was a couple at the door, yes.
Yeah.
And then so what's even better, they have all the TVs up. It's got all the sports, all the games on, which you can't find in a Seattle bar. God
shocker.
help you.
That's weird.
And every kind of game, it has the MLB package, got MLB Network. So, anyways, but we sit down at this back table, order some drinks, and you want to talk about attentive. Like you have a halfway full drink, they're asking you if you want another one because they want tips, because, and then, but they have a popcorn machine in the back that makes like the old school popcorn that's making fresh popcorn, and they're bringing it out, and just it's free. Like we ate 15 bowls of popcorn last night. I'm sure I'm still picking it out of my teeth even after brushing like 3 times. But yeah, so we go there every year. It's kind of our new go-to spot. We love it. I mean, like it's so crazy. It's like there's a bunch of business dudes in there. There's locals from like that live in the area. Just an odd mix of people with basically Russian models working as waitresses and bartenders.
Perfect. We need to start up a chain in the Seattle and Tacoma area. What was the name of the place again?
Whiskey Trader. I probably shouldn't say that. They're probably going to get me whacked here, but like, it's a really cool.
You gave them an infomercial about the place.
That's fine. Like, no, it's a cool place.
Buy you a drink.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't. Really cool place.
I mean, I'm not going out and kicking it in New York the way I used to back in the day.
Yeah,
I told the story on the other episode about how
the first episode of 113.
Yeah, how the first year on the beat, I think I saw the sun come up 10 out of the 11 days I was in New York, from being out till 5 in the morning. So
yeah, it's good. You know what? You're maturing, and that's, I know. You know what? That's what it's all about. What we talked about this before, but I'm just going to bring it up again. I'll never bring up the Bryan Woo should be in the bullpen anymore until maybe they get in the postseason. He has been so dominant since he's come back. I mean, he only threw the 77 yesterday. They added him on the pitch count. It was 85. They don't want to run him into the ground. What have you seen different from him? I mean, it's obviously these guys get better and better as they more time in the bigs, but where has he improved over last year to what you're seeing now? Because he's really, these first 3 starts, and even if you go back into his minor league starts, Divish, he's been dominant.
Well, I think one of the bigger things is he has a plan against left-handed hitters. It's not always going to work. He didn't have the great slider, and the way he throws, he's not going to be able to throw a split finger. He has a changeup that's okay. I think he threw it 6 times. His 2-seam fastball has enough run away from hitters. Like he threw it to Juan Soto last night, started kind of outside half and leaked it right onto the edge, got a called strike. He can throw it towards their front hip and break it in on them. And he's refined the slider. He's throwing 2 different kinds of sliders right now, a sweeper and like what he calls a gyro, or more of a almost like a cutter. So he has those pitches to kind of just play off. He has enough different looks to him to get lefties out, because lefties just torched him last year and teams would run 6 lefties at him. Well, he has a better plan this year. Now, that's not to say that he won't give up hits. He's going to give up more hits to the left side. If you look, he's only given up 1 hit to a right-handed hitter all season. So, like, he's death to righties, and when he commands his fastball the way he was at the top of the zone, it doesn't matter if you're right or left. If he can place it right on that line the way he was last night, it's big. And the one thing is like, again, we talked about it on the previous episode, but he has enough rhythm and slow. It's like that little rhythm and slow, deliberate delivery and then all of a sudden the ball gets on you. It's why he's able to throw middle to Aaron Judge and have him look late, because it
Yeah.
just gets on top of you so fast.
What would on Monday's episode with Bill Kruger, you can imagine there was some more yelling at the clouds.
Again, it's Bill Kruger and Jim Duquette. Your Bartles and James day. Mondays is Bartles and James.
Pretty much it. He brought up a point. I'm just curious your thoughts on it. I mean, they all like to tinker with their pitches. Do you think though sometimes they should simplify a little bit, pick their three best and go with it, or do you? Because they all like to use so many different ones. Gilbert leads the charge with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a mad scientist and it works for him. But do you think sometimes they tinker too much and they should find their best threes? What Kruger was making the point, and just kind of roll with that.
Well, I think they probably do, but on any given start, I think that at least one of their pitches will be, not very good. They won't have the command or the feel of it, won't have the action they're looking for, so they'll pocket it anyways and maybe just bring it out to show. I think having them, I think being predictable now with advanced analytics and scouting, I think is a bad thing. Being predictable to how you want to get guys out, being predictable to certain pitches in certain situations is a very bad thing. But also just having enough pitches that you can be unpredictable or also turn to it if something isn't working. Like Bryce Miller's talked about it several times this year. If he doesn't have the splitter and he doesn't have the improved two seam, he's just not getting out of these games the way he did before. There's been games where he hasn't had great fastball command and he's still giving them a quality start. To me, I don't. I think once you get in there, he still knows that like his fastball is his good pitch, and they have a good idea of what they believe they're good at. And I think if you have a strong catcher calling the games, he will let you know what you're good at. I think Cal Raleigh is that guy. Mike Zanino was that guy before that. They have a dominant personality, and they'll hold you to a scouting report or be honest with you and say, your fastball's garbage today, so we're gonna have to do something different. Um, I think that's the big thing. On some level, you should simplify. You should simplify if you're throwing something well and it's working. Like remember last year where Castillo just threw sinkers and four seam fastballs against the White Sox, 50 straight pitches. Well, yeah, because it was working. But what happens when you don't work? I'd rather have more weapons that I can turn to in case something goes wrong than have less weapons and just have to focus on those few things in the idea of simplifying. I mean, simplifying is good when you're in the moment and understanding what you have, but having more weapons and being more prepared to beat teams in a variety of ways, I think is smarter.
Yeah. Well, they're on a roll. Woo is on a roll. I mean, the entire team is kind of on a roll right now. It's been a good road trip from them. I mean, they're probably lucky to pull out that first game against New York. You could also, make a case that even though they dropped 2 out of 3 to Baltimore, they easily could have won one of those other games. Right now, I mean, is there anything that they are proving to themselves as they have continue on this road trip? And certainly, they've got 2 more there against New York, and then they'll switch gears to Washington. But added confidence, learn something about themselves, prove something to themselves, prove something to maybe the rest of the American League.
I think a little bit of everything. I don't know that they really are that worried about proving something to themselves. These guys believe, they've said they believe, they like the idea of people overlooking them because of the offseason and how it went out. They love the idea that people are kind of overlooking them. And so I think, they've always said they were good and that they could win the division. But, getting results to verify that belief is good. I think for them, the confidence is this. They know they're not hitting great. They know they haven't been playing that well defensively at times. And they're still 5 games over 500. They're still leading the division. They're banking wins. I think that's important for them to understand that, to go out and win games. And so it's like, it's easy to sit there and say, oh yeah, we believe we're good and this is a good team. And when they were 8-12 to start the season, you're like, okay, maybe not. But now that they're winning games and finding ways to win and being competitive in almost every game, then it verifies the talk. So I don't know that the league looks at them still, because you can just look at the offensive numbers. Well, if we just pitch well, we'll get them out and we'll beat them.
Right.
But They've just found enough to do, and I think that's the big thing for the Mariners. Like, well, we still haven't got going. Julio hasn't gotten going. Garver isn't doing much. Haniger's been up and down. Like, if we can even get two of the three, especially if they get Julio going, then yeah, they're going to run it. They're going to roll some games off and win a lot of games because their pitching is that good.
Seventh inning or later in games, their offense has been great. They're slugging 403, which is fourth in MLB. Their OPS ranks eighth in Major League Baseball, seventh inning, and later, third in home runs, which only the Orioles and Mets are ahead of them. And then, but they're still striking out the third most there. But that's always going to be kind of their MO. Can they continue to sustain that type of production when they get into another team's bullpen?
Yeah, I think so. And one thing is by having all these different hitters and having a bench that's better, you're going to get better matchups. You can play matchups. Like think about some of the big pinch hits that Luke Raley has. You can just see service waiting. Okay, you're going to go to the right hander. Okay, here comes Luke Raley. Or in a game where maybe Haniger doesn't start, or even if Dylan Moore isn't starting a game, you have guys now that you bring off the bench that are something more than just a warm body in a matchup versus left versus right. Like they're real damage guys. So I think that's somehow how they can do it. I think they can make it work that way. Um, yeah,
And you don't see any, and you know what, Ryan? You don't see anymore in bullpens these situational lefties anymore. Well, one, because of the minimum
yeah,
requirement that you got to face guys now. You don't see those lefties anymore. Those
no,
specialists that come in.
no, and so it's and the way the Mariners set up their lineup and they have some switch hitters, they can offset any of that. Even if they had a guy that you're facing 2 out of 3, it's like why he went to Spire last night. You understood it. Yeah, he had to face Judge to start, but he had Verdugo and Rizzo back to back.
Right.
You want him for those guys. That's their best lefties. But now I think it's fine. I don't think that we again on the previous episode we talked about we haven't seen I haven't seen a bullpen where I thought that was super deep and had a bunch of arms. Like how the Mariners did it last year where they'd run Brash, Munoz, Sewald, and even Spire at you for the last 3 innings. It was really hard. The Yankees bullpen wasn't great. We saw how bad the Orioles bullpen has been. Um, Astros bullpen is all beat up and they don't know who they're going to use. The Mariners got runs off of them in those games. The Rangers bullpen is not good. So like I haven't looked at a team and said, okay, yeah, they're probably the Twins. The Twins might have been the best that I've seen because they bring Duran and they got the other guys throwing 100. But I haven't seen a staff where like if you get into the middle innings and you run the starter after 5 where you can't pick up some runs. I mean, that's how the Mariners did last night. They beat up on some bad relievers that had to be used because other guys have been used a little too much.
One thing that we did not talk about on take 1 of episode 113. So this is something new. This we can't even go back to listen to take 1 because I didn't even ask you this. Jim Duquette brought this up on Monday, and Pete Alonso is going to be dangled out there by the Mets most likely. They're going to continue to spiral out, and he's going to be a free agent. He will, the Mariners could use another hitter. They could use another first baseman. One, do you think that they would be interested in someone like Pete Alonso? And then if they were to try and acquire Pete Alonso, Harry Ford, would you dangle Harry Ford for Pete Alonso?
Well, I think they're going to trade Harry Ford one way or the other to get a bat if they're going to go for a bat. You look at kind of how the organization is set up, and I think they still believe Cal is in their long-term plans. I think they would love to sign him to an extension if he would. So you have your catcher in place. So Harry's value right now is probably at the highest it's ever going to be. You probably make a move that way. So if it is, I don't know. That's tough for a rental, though. I mean, a catcher with that kind of athleticism, that young, I don't know that you just want to do it for a rental. But yeah, they have enough depth now where I think they knew like all along that they would end up trading Harry for a hitter if they needed to. Or maybe it would have been a starting pitcher if somebody were to get hurt. They always have that guy. But yeah, they don't like the rentals. They've never liked the rentals. They want at least 1 year, or like half year plus the next year. I don't know who that guy is right now out there. There's a few, but they don't. I mean, they don't want to give up a lot for a rental. I don't know how Pete Alonso fits. I'm talking with some guys about talking with Adam Frazier. So they talk a lot about going from the National League to the American League because you just don't see these pitchers. You don't see a ton of guys, so it's difficult. Like to kind of adjust on the fly. So I don't know. I mean, like, I think they'll make moves unless you know, unless Gregory Santos comes back by June or about July 1st or end of June or wherever he's back, and he's throwing BBs. They got to go get a reliever. I'm sorry, that's more pressing than the bats. You can hope and pray with the bats and maybe get a lesser bat to some extent, but they are not going to get to the division title and win the division without getting more reinforcements in the middle innings. Asking Trent Thornton and Cody Bolton and those guys to come in and try and be Justin Topa or whoever it was, it's not working. Maybe there's a guy down there. Maybe it's Logan Evans in Double A that they bring up and convert him and do the Diaz thing for this 1 year, and he throws 100. Maybe that's the plan. But right now, you just can't. They're just struggle to get from the seventh to and even Stanek hasn't been good, though he was better last night. It's a struggle to get to Stanek and Munoz, and Spire hasn't been as good as he was last year. So they got to figure something out there. They need another. They need another reliever that can get strikeouts in leverage situations, and they don't have that right now. I don't know what Tacoma's like. They have a bunch of guys throw 100 down there, but I don't know if they're going to be producers at the MLB level.
Sounds like you'd be surprised, though.
I would. I mean, I think they got to go for it.
Ford, but you would be surprised if Harry Ford is still more surprised if Harry Ford is still on this team post the trade deadline. Not necessarily just about Pete Alonso, but anybody.
Yeah, no, I think Harry's probably their best position player chip that they're willing to part with. Like they're not. I don't think they're willing to part with Cole Young or Colt Emerson. So I think he's one of the ones. I mean, they'd be willing to trade Tyler Locklear. They might even be able. I don't know about Lazaro Montez. He's so far away. But like, the thing is you have to win now. You are doing a disservice to this group of players that's gotten off to this start, and the starting pitching unit that's gotten off to this start by not doing something more than by adding something to help them. I mean, like when they got Castillo that year, they were so energized. They need to do something similar because one, you have a lot of players that can go elsewhere in the future. If you don't show that you're willing to win on some level, why would they want to stay beyond the money? Like if the money's equal, why would they want to stay if they're going to pitch for an organization that's not trying to win? Whereas, like, say what you want about the other places that might offer them the same money, they're trying to win. That's the difference. And so I think they have to make that, especially like if the Mariners are leading the division at the deadline, you better trade so you can solidify it. Because I'll look at it this way from a straight capitalistic view. You're guaranteed home playoff games. You know how much money they make on home playoff games? If you got financial issues, do something, invest in a team to get yourself more money down there. The long range aspect of investing in the team, while it may cost you more and go above your payroll budget versus what you would get from a playoff run, an extended playoff run, who knows? If they got to the World Series, how much money that they make off of that and how much goodwill they bring. Like they make a deep run in the postseason, then you know what? We might not have to hear about 54% for a while or any of that stuff. So they got to do it. Like whether or not they believe they could get here, they need to do it. That's the problem that I had with 2021. Whether or not they thought they were good enough to get there and they were surprised by it, or whether it was sustainable, they were there and they traded their closer and they disrupted the harmony of the team, and it didn't work. And the players they got out of it gave them nothing, essentially. A little bit that year, but what did you get out of Diego Castillo moving forward, or Abe Toro? It's like, and even last year, like you look at the trade last year, now you have Canzone and Rojas, and you understand it. And I think a lot of people felt like Sewald was going to deal with injuries and deal with some diminished performance as he got older. But like this year, there's no reason to do that. If you had to move a piece off your big league roster, you better be getting a really good piece back. Is what because you have prospects you can trade. You could even trade. You could trade Hancock. I mean, like I don't know what his value is. You could trade him. They're going to draft a college starter in the first round this year.
They're just good at developing pitchers and finding starting pitchers.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that one. You were better. You were even better in take 2 of episode 113.
Well, I had a Celsius and
you were
some pizza.
Strong in take 1, but take 2 even better.
I had Celsius and some pizza, and I could go eat another piece.
Go get another piece. Thank you for doing it.
Not a problem.
It
If
was
this
the
doesn't
first
work
time
this
we've
time,
done.
if this doesn't work this time, take that guitar and smash it over your own head.
I will. If it doesn't work this time and there's something wrong with the audio, I'm going to be very upset.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not going to be good. Not going to be good for anyone. And I got a baseball game tonight, and I'll take it out on the 11-year-olds.
Oh yeah. Get
Okay,
the metal
that's what we're gonna
fungo
do.
bat and start hitting some rockets at him.
I do. Yeah, you got it. There he is, Ryan Divish, all brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Visit chaletbowl.com to make your next reservation. Take 2, episode 113 here on Wednesday in the books. Ryan will be back on Friday. All right, we'll talk to you then, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy.
All right, if it doesn't work.